never seen one of these except on their website. I did cut the tape, just kind of prep this. We will see how this looks. Shipping direct from Retro Shooter. And I guess we're just gonna have to pull one end here. Try to do it so you can see, so it's not upside down. Look at this. Holy cow, I didn't realize it was gonna be this big. Let's drop that for a second. The MX24, I mean, it's a stinking machine gun. Let me look at this. This is wild. Now there is a tutorial on Retro Shooter's YouTube page where they do recommend to watch everything. Looks like it has its own power source. So not just plugging it into the Pandora box, actually gonna have to plug this into an outlet. And then this, we're gonna kind of, the fire base, so we'll see. Maybe this does need its own connection. I was just gonna unplug player 1 or player 2 and plug this in, but maybe this has to go in the third port. So we'll figure that out after we check this out. Take the gun out. Ooh, it's got some weight to it. It's not, this is not cheap. This is pretty solid. It is cheaper to get 2 of them. There's a deal. I just ordered the one. You got that Retro Shooter right here. And you're gonna need 4 IR modules for this to work. So you're gonna need the newer, updated Retro Shooter. But you could buy the 2 IRs if you only have 2. About $5 more. And kind of a backstory, this is the TV that I did my first review on the Retro Shooter. It does have 2 original IR modules up there. Then I installed it with the help of Buy Stuff Arcades on my Terminator 2 cab, followed by their updated guns, which you need 4 sensors along with the MX24. So if you buy now, any style, you do get the 4 sensors, and this will work no problem. And I do want to point out that there's actually 5 USB ports on this fire base. We have 1 here, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 in the back. I'm not sure, this is going to be, I guess we're going to figure this out together because you can plug the pedals in here. So I'm not sure, I do have a spare Pandora's box. So if you've picked up Retro Shooter, my current Pandora box is, the same Retro Shooter you would get is modded inside of my Terminator 2, and it's pretty much the same thing. You have your pedals, your 1 player, your 2 player, and then 3 USB ports right here. So you're gonna have to plug this into your Retro Shooter. So I'm gonna plug it into player 1 because it's 24 volts. The gun is gonna need the extra power. You're not gonna get its full effect by just plugging it in here, and you might fry this. You wanna take care of this box because, this has all your games. So this is gonna plug into here, your gun's gonna plug into here, and then we're gonna have another power supply to give full power to this 24 volt fire base, which will allow the MX24 to work at its full capacity and to protect your original Pandora box. One of the reasons a lot of us decided to put it into an Arcade 1-Up or an At Games is it gives us, a cabinet where we can hide a lot of these cords. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. The only cords you really see coming out of this cabinet is going into the outlet, and then the guns actually feed underneath the riser. They come up, and this is it. You just see it from the front of the cabinet. But we need to power our MX24. We can't directly plug it into the Pandora box. We could overload it, we could break it. So that's where the Firebase comes in. So the Firebase is plugged into USB 1, player 1, and then it's got its own power source where it's plugged into the wall, and then the MX24, and you could get two MX24s, and that's why there's another player 2 right here. We have that plugged into player 1, USB, and then the recoil. So for me, this is pretty ideal of having the retro shooter guns mounted in front of my Terminator 2 cab. They sit in here very clean. Now people have mounted it on the side, but if you have cabinets right next to each other, you can't really do that option. It doesn't really help having another gun. It's going to be kind of a mess. But for this review, we're plugging it into this cabinet, not a TV, and the cord is running through, and here's our MX24. Now there are a couple of features here. If we hold the trigger down, you can hear the single fire. But if we hold it down, you're not going to hear it. Unless you hold this switch for the next setting, and then, so it just depends, and we're going to trigger a game here. It just depends how loud you want to make it. Pretty machine gun accurate. Or if you hold it down, it will fire once. And then you can hold it down and it will just continue to fire without hearing that noise, unless you want a single fire. Well, we'll get some gameplay on Area 51, and I do have my crosshair on, so you see that crosshair, and I know that's not arcade accurate, but it helps me play. And we'll see how this holds up. Now I'm on single setting where I'm going to have to fire it every time I want to hit somebody. I'm going to hold that down. You can unplug the recoil if you don't want to hear it, because I don't know if there's actually a setting to completely turn it off, but if we unplug it, we won't hear that. Try one more setting before I try that. Okay, with T2, I can hit it once, and then it will continue firing. So I guess it just depends what game. Area 51 didn't work that way. See, the crosshairs are handling pretty good. I'm a little close to this cabinet. You want to have the right spot, the right distance. I literally have an arcade right behind me. I'm not used to having, I mean, this is a big gun, so you got to give yourself enough room to be able to maximize the aim on here. Give yourself the distance and find that right spot for it. And then we can hold this down. Now, if you see where my finger is right here, I will show when we turn the lights on, there is an analog right underneath our lens, and you can navigate through the menu without using your control deck. I do have the Buy Stuff Arcades control deck, so if you have this mod on any of your Arcade 1-Ups or your at games, we can use this to navigate through and exit the game. Of course, you needed a trigger to exit the game. I wasn't sure if we were going to use one of these 3 buttons here. But yeah, we can go through the menu with the analog. And some games are just going to work a little bit different than others. So Terminator 2 handled pretty good. It was nice that I could leave the recoil plugged in and not hear it. Because, you know, there's times where it's fun to just play the games without hearing anything. But I just want to give you the whole feel here that, you know, you're going to deal with that. So if you don't want to listen to it, you can turn it off. So here's the 3 buttons we were just using. We do have your rocket launcher right here. Also, one of these buttons will function, but, you know, to get that true feeling by holding that down, I mean, it just adds so much when you're using this. Our analog right underneath our lens. And when you do have the recoil on, you can actually feel this. Like, this is coming right back at you. You're getting that true, you know, machine gun presence. And it's great. I mean, this is solid. Comparing it to the retro shooter, I mean, this is a solid gun. This is a step up. It's not cheap. But I figured, you know, I've done so much with retro shooter. I've done all these mods to it that, you know, let's just go nuts. If you're going to build a time machine, you might as well do it in style. And also just comparing it to an arcade 1-up. This is on Time Crisis. This gun is so much lighter. First of all, the plastic we're talking about here, I mean, this is like commercial grade, industrial strength compared to this. And I'm not knocking any of the controls, but just if you have Time Crisis, the guns on the retro shooter and the MX24, I mean, this is a completely different thickness when we're talking the plastic. So it's going to be a lot different. Plus the cords are thicker than what you would get from an arcade 1-up. If you don't want to hear any of this, and you hold this down, and you don't even want to hear this, I guess my answer is you unplug the recoil from the box, and then you won't hear anything. And I'll do that now. We'll play a couple of games. I'll completely unplug that, where all we're doing is powering this gun, and we're going to have this red light working. So without the recoil, we'll play Revolution X. I mean, this gun would be a perfect for a T2, for Revolution X, for Operation Wolf, but we'll do it without any of the recoil noises. So when we hold the trigger down, we'll just hear the actual sounds in the game and not on the trigger. And I'm just a tad too close to the screen. It's picking it up pretty good. It's a little bit better with the retro shooter just because the MX24 is like 5 times as long. Actually, we will take player 2 and we'll just see I forgot there was 3 players on here. I'm used to seeing, I'm looking at the blue. Player 2 is the yellow, and you can see the yellow here on the left-hand side. The MX24 is on the right. Bear with me, guys. This is 2 completely different sizes. At this distance, okay, you can just see how much better of an aim the 2-player retro shooter is compared to the MX24, just because I need to be a little bit further back. So if you're going to get one of these, you've got to give yourself probably another 2 feet from where I'm standing, which is probably about 28 inches away from the control deck. But I mean, it does pick up the aim. I just selected the direction there with the MX24. But you can see, just look at how much better the yellow's crosshair is going. A little bit smoother. I want to test out my favorite game. Lethal Enforcers. And we'll see how the MX24 handles one of the main reasons I went with retro shooter. Now you can see this crosshair is moving pretty good. You know, it might just work differently with some games. Revolution X was an add-on, but this is all right. Let's check out some gameplay. It's gonna be weird playing Lethal Enforcers with the MX24, but we'll see how it handles. And again, I'm pretty close to this screen. I mean, you can see the end of the gun right here. Technically, I'd probably have to be at least a foot behind. A little early to tell yet, hold on. Okay, that was a little tricky to reload. I gotta admit, it's a little faster with the actual retro shooter gun. You know, you're kind of moving your whole body around. It's like Christian Bale in the Batman Begins Batman suit where he couldn't turn his neck. You're kind of doing that with the MX24. Not the most ideal game to play Lethal Enforcers with it, but just because it's my favorite shooting game. A little hard to reload. It's off just a little bit, and it's because I'm so close. I'll kind of stand on an angle and see if that improves. But now I'm way off to the left-hand side. Doesn't help on shooting off screen. There we go. So it's a little tricky with the reload, and the crosshair's off just a hair. This is playing a lot better than Lethal Enforcers, so I guess that was not the most ideal fit to play Lethal Enforcers. For just kind of a running gun here, a rail gun, it's perfect to use the MX24. Next two games, Operation Thunderbolt, and then we'll play Steel Gunner, which total rail shooting, I think perfect examples for the MX24.
Operation initiated. Rescue all hostages. Gather intelligence information.
Now the crosshair is off. Let's just see here how this... It's playing okay, but I just think I'm a little close. The crosshairs are on, and we got a pretty good, you can see the crosshair going back and forth. I'm really going at a pretty quick pace. See how it shoots. I just think this is gonna play a lot better games like this with the MX24. So if you're looking to play, you know, like duck hunt and stuff, like it's not gonna be the best fit. If you can just hold this down and just kind of let them come to you, I think it's going to work perfect. And you can see the crosshair is on. Just like playing with that crosshair. It's a little delay here with Steel Gunner 2. I'm moving faster than that crosshair is going. But because of the style of this, where they just kind of, again, they kind of run to you. It's like they're running into your fire. It works out a lot better. Even hitting hostages. Little bit of a delay here. Little bit. After going through a lot of the games on here, I am in a tight space. I'm about 3.5 feet of room between pretty much the front of this control deck and a cabinet right behind me. So my back's pretty much been pressed up against one of my arcades. You got to give yourself enough room, and I think you're really going to maximize using the MX24. One last example here. We'll play Aliens. It's going to be a lot like that Jurassic Park where they're pretty much just going to come right at you. And this is moving pretty good. This is a little more accurate from the beginning here than what we just experienced in Jurassic Park. So I think some games are going to be different. You might have to find a sweet spot a little bit further back. But with Aliens, it's not too bad. It's not perfect. But I'm able to hit everything. But I think playing it in a bigger room, you'll really maximize having an MX24. Like investing in 1 or 2 guns, I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. I want to thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time. It is nice having this handle though. I mean, if you give yourself enough space, it's unfortunate it's so tight in here. I might actually have to get a second retro shooter just to play this on a bigger TV and having more room. Really, Loki?